Everything has a lifespan. The life of Jesus is eternal. Ask Jesus to give you the life that is eternal. This is episode 2 with Kurt Alan Schmidt, and together we gather.
Shut up and sit down.
Hey, welcome to In Process, where we gather to remind one another what Jesus has done, what Jesus is doing, and what Jesus will do. People invest in what they believe in, so show us if you believe in what we're doing by clicking that thumbs up. Gather with us regularly by clicking that subscribe button. Enjoy.
All right, we're back. This is episode 2 of Kurt in Process, and together we are here gathered together. Jesus has gathered us together. And so I want to get us started off. We went through a lot last time we were gathered, and really got into some heart issues of what you had been falsely really placing your hope in for a really long time. And I'm really intrigued because I see a transformed Kurt in front of me, and I'm intrigued of the inner workings of that. And so I'd love to understand from your perspective, what moved you? What was the problem in the past? What was causing you grief? What were you putting your hope in, your belief in that was causing you a lot of trouble? And what freed you from that? How did you get to this free place where you're no longer overwhelmed, overwrought with false hope, false emotion, whatever? So really, what moved you into the state of freedom that I'm testifying to that's before me?
There's a lot to that
There's
question.
A lot there, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, first, thanks for having me back. The first one was really fun, and I enjoyed doing it.
Yeah.
Thought it was a great opportunity to attempt to answer that really broad and deep question that you just asked.
Let's get it started off big.
Yeah, you hit it hard right away, made an impression. I really think that all of us, including me, throughout our lives depend upon ourselves too much. And we put too much upon ourselves, and we think that we are somehow in control. We're in control of our life. We're in control of our home. We're in control of our finances. We're in control of our jobs, our careers. We somehow think that we have this, it's an actual illusion of control.
Yeah.
We think that by doing preventive maintenance, our car will never break down or something. There's always some type of disbelief there. And for years, I believed that if I was a good man, and it would be difficult to define what a good man is, but a good man basically does all the right things.
Yeah.
Pays his bills, greets his neighbors, is good to his wife, good to his children. If somehow I was a good man and I was good enough to be worthy that, I would be blessed in life, and really there isn't one good man or woman on the earth, truly. We can call ourselves good. We can lead with a false narrative and think that we're good because we go to church, or we're good because we didn't kill someone, or we're good because we don't commit crimes. But whatever your reasoning is that you're good, you're not. We're all sinners. We all make mistakes, and we all are self-absorbed at times in our lives where we think the universe revolves around us.
So how does that relate then to what we talked about last time, which revolved around a lot of your marriage and your relationship?
Sure.
So you felt as though you were being good and doing things well, but it wasn't enough. Is that true? And that created a lot of inner turmoil in you, and you would try to then prove yourself? Did you find yourself proving yourself a lot?
I think it was twofold. I think sometimes in a long marriage, in a long relationship, people who observe you, we all have perspectives of ourselves where we may see ourselves in one light through our lens, and someone else may see us in a different light. And when you have a long-term relationship with a loved one, and they see you day in and day out, they get to know your strengths and weaknesses, and they look at it from a different lens than yours. And oftentimes I would feel like I would have to prove myself as a friend or a partner or a confidant or a helper or a servant. And other times, a loved one, such as a wife or a mother or father, would come to me and say, "Kurt, you need to change this, or you need to change that about yourself. You're doing this, or you're doing that wrong." And then you would want to disprove that. You would want, being wanting to be a good man, a good person, a good human being. You would want to disprove that, and you would go too far left or right to do that sometimes. And I found myself doing that sometimes in life, especially as in the formative years as a teenager and throughout college years. I would try to disprove people who had constructive criticism for me.
Sure. And so like, what was, so then at some point it didn't work, and that really, it was never working, right?
Yeah.
You were under the illusion that it was working, right? But it was just an illusion. And so like something shifted. You don't believe that any longer. So now what do you believe in instead?
Well, let me go a little bit further on what you just said. I think we oftentimes want to please the other person, whether it's a mother, father, spouse, whatever the case may be, child, daughter, son. We want to please that person, and there's fleeting moments in this life where you do something, or you think of something, or you spontaneously, interact with that person, and they're happy. And you take a vacation, and you come back, and you're all happy from the vacation, had a great time. Everyone, created some great memories. But those things are fleeting. They don't last forever and ever. And oftentimes you'll find people that are outside of Christ always looking for the next bigger, better thing. So they get back from one vacation at the end of February, and by March they're already talking about, what do we do now? What's the next best thing? So then they go out and buy a new car, or they go out and buy a new boat for the summer, or they take another vacation in the summer. But in between those vacations, in between those purchases, in between that retail therapy, in between that those big plans that they're making, really they're not happy with their life as it is. But they don't realize, most of us don't realize that. And there's these big moments where you go on a vacation for a week, and then you come back. There's 52 weeks in a year. What do you do with the other 51?
Yeah, and for me, I never really looked for the bigger, better thing necessarily. But if I found something that worked, I wanted to consume a lot of that thing. And so like if running worked for me, then I want to run a lot.
Sure.
If music worked for me, if a certain band worked for a certain song, I overplay songs like crazy. It drives my wife nuts. And so like I will just everybody just hates my playlist because I just let it go over and over and over because it works for me. And I'm like, this is great. Why do I need to change it?
Yeah.
And I'll just keep it going and keep it going. But again, at some point in time, maybe that thing will last a little bit longer, but eventually it dies. Eventually it loses its shininess,
its luster,
its luster, its appeal, its a satiation. It doesn't satisfy us any longer, and so then we need to move on to something different. If we're looking for these temporal things or whatever, but. So for you were attempting to be a good man, and so again, I'm trying to correlate how you were, because when I met you, and at some point in time we'll need to like kind of go into a backstory of how you and I even came to. We've known each other for how long? About 7 years.
Yeah, I was working very hard at the time that we met.
Yeah, we met. We both were coworkers, and and as we met and got to know one another, there's some really interesting interchanges that we got to have, and you thought a certain way about me, I thought a certain way about you, and we were both wrong, but we've both grown a tremendous amount since that time.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah, but up until literally probably, I would say about 3 months ago, and I don't know where the big shift came, but like I would see you were growing all along. But when I first met you, and I'm not exaggerating, you're probably the most embittered man I ever met. Like your heart was very filled with darkness from my perspective. Now, I'm not saying you didn't have moments of light and moments of goodness and joy and all of those things, because you did. But there was a lot of animosity going on and embitterment that you were experiencing. And so, so you've grown since then, but up until about 3 months ago, it's like you were carrying a lot of hurt, a lot of pain. It felt like you were trying to like gain something that you didn't have. But it felt like around, a few months back, like it would go up and then come back down, up and then come back down. But a few months ago, it just seems like you've gained an amount of freedom where you'll still have hard days. You'll still have difficult times.
We all do.
Yeah. But by and large, I love hanging out with you. Not that I didn't before, but like, I'm not reaching out to you. You're also encouraging me. And there's this, you have a power that it didn't seem like you had in the past. And so, do you recognize that, first of all? Do you even recognize that?
I would use, power is a great word, but I would use perspective. I would use the word lens. I would use the word, the way I look at the world now and the way I look at life, because there's life here on earth. Yeah. Which we all know will end sometime. Whether some of us die young, some of us die in middle age, and some of us die when we're very old. Yeah. But death will come. Yeah. But death isn't the end for a believer. Right. And I'm now looking past this life. I'm going to be 55 in July. Yeah. And I'm looking past this life now, saying, well, if I live to be 80 or 90 or whatever, however long I live, at some point I'm going to be out of this life and into the next one. And that next one has a whole new adventure for me, a whole new thing filled with the glory of getting to meet my Creator, getting to spend eternity with my Creator. Yeah. And hopefully, not to say this is the have all and end all, but hopefully I will see those that departed before me. So did you not believe that in the not so distant past, or have you always believed that? Is that partly what is to credit for, you don't seem as fixated on, hurts, on wrong. If you've been wronged, you went through a divorce, and we'll cover this in another episode, but you're jobless right now. And so you didn't necessarily want to be, and there was some hurt, whether it was warranted or not. We don't need to even really work through that. Mm-hmm. You found yourself in a place that you really didn't want to be for a lot of reasons. Sure. Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. And it felt like you were carrying a lot of that, but now it doesn't feel like you're carrying that any longer. So is that because you have this eternal perspective? Did something change? I'm trying to nail down what's the difference? What happened in Kurt over the last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? How did you become such a free man? Well, I think the key there, if you really want to open that door to freedom, you have to find the key that'll open that door so that you can feel free, and that key is not to depend on yourself, because there's someone a lot more powerful than me that came here. Got it. And lived a short life, a relatively short life, and was crucified on the cross, and he died for us. Yeah. And basically he won the victory for us already. We don't have to win it. We have to depend on him. If we want him, to have that victory in him, then we have to believe, trust, and have faith in him.
So you had
not ourselves.
You had belief and trust and faith in yourself.
Yes.
And that shifted from you putting your hope in you, that you could make things happen. This goes all the way back to what you first started, the control thing. We want to believe that we're in control of our lives.
Yeah.
If you do maintenance on your car, it doesn't break down. But in this world, it breaks down. There's things that happen even if you do everything right.
Yep.
Right? There's things that happen that we don't want to happen, even if you do all the right things, all the good things.
You can be the best planner in the world.
Got it.
And try to pre-plan every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
And you could be poised to retire.
Yeah.
And have millions of dollars in the bank. And you could get a call from the doctor the week before your retirement and be told that you have stage 4 of cancer of some type of, very virulent strain of cancer.
Yeah.
And you could be told that you have less than a year to live.
Yeah.
What does a lifetime of work then? Are you going to put on your gravestone that I wish I could have worked one more day?
Right.
You're not worried about working one more day at that point or achieving one more success or one more pat on the back. You wished you would have spent more time with your family.
So
loved better and lived better.
So the key that opened the door for you, you went from putting your hope in you and being self-reliant to putting your hope in God. You became God reliant. And you became God reliant because you got to know Jesus better and you came to understand what he actually did for you on your behalf.
Yep.
So no longer are you trying to find happiness and joy and comfort based on your own work. You're looking for it based on his work.
I would say that's correct. And I would also add that not only do we depend on ourselves, but we look to happiness in others, in other things that we idolize or that we worship or that we overvalue. Mm-hmm. And that could be a spouse, that could be a financial portfolio, as we discussed in the last podcast. That could be, in property or whatever it is that you put your time, energy, and attention to. That's what you're truly worshiping.
Yeah, we gotta just pause for a second as my dog barks, and he'll get over it in a second. That's Miley again, and so
Miley the Wonder Dog.
Yeah, lighten up the moment, I guess, or something. I don't know. But so that's good. So you either were self-reliant or others reliant. Mm-hmm. But now you're God reliant.
Yes, I would say I'm God reliant.
You're becoming more God reliant.
But I wanted to put that in, that we all have bad days, and for me,
or you shift back to self-reliance.
I've really found it hard. There's times in my life when it's hard to go through a holiday alone, or it's hard to. We live in a couple's world where you walk through a park and you're enjoying the day, but you run into 10 other people and they're all together as couples, and you miss that. We as human beings sometimes want to accentuate what we don't have. We want to stress what we don't have, and as opposed to realizing the blessings and the goodness that we have been afforded in our lives.
Yeah. So you're in process.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, and that's one of the reasons why we call this in process, because. Though you've come to a place of freedom, the door's been opened. Yeah. There's times where you get your mind back on, because you're still living in this world. Like you said, sometimes it's a couple's world, and you look over and you see a couple, and you all of a sudden, instead of looking to Jesus for your hope, you all of a sudden say, I'm missing that over there. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't have that. And Jesus isn't enough. I need to have that too. Or how does that work for you? What happens in that moment? And and here I'm going to do it again, but what happens in that moment? But I still don't think I've heard you describe it really well. But like, how did you get from what persuaded you? How did you get from self-reliance to God reliance? What changed your perspective?
Oh,
Like, what was how did God persuade you?
Oh,
How did
sure.
he show you that he was better than you putting your hope in something and maintaining your car?
Yeah.
And then like hoping it never breaks down because you did the good thing and the right thing.
Yeah.
Like, how did he change you from doing, having that lens, having that perspective to this new lens that I'm sensing, but I haven't heard you really like.
Yeah. I wish I could say it was like a light bulb, like a light switch where you turned it on and off. For me, it was a gradual thing over a period of several years where I'm mourned the loss of my father. I mourned the loss of my wife through divorce and separation and divorce after the stroke, where I went through a series of I won't call them failures, but I'll call them missteps, where you thought you were doing the right thing and then it didn't work out. So then you reevaluated it and said, okay, now I need to try harder. I need to work more hours at this. I need to put in more effort on this, or I need to, find out more about this. And gradually I found out that there's sometimes that you just can't education, research, study, trying harder, working more hours, putting in more time. Sometimes it just doesn't work. And it was the first time in my life that sheer effort, education, trying to get better at whatever it was that I wanted to, succeed at, didn't work. And I was very frustrated. And I said, why? Why isn't this working? I'm doing everything my mom and dad told me to do as a youngster. I'm applying myself. I'm doing everything. And it just didn't work. So, you can only do what you can do. I found out that the Creator, our God, can do more than me. And he can do it a lot faster than me.
So somehow, somewhere, was it out of pure frustration that you were doing the right things, you were doing the good things, you were self-reliant, and then you'd put your hope in other things, and your plans just kept becoming frustrated, and so you decided to look to God?
I believe that I believe I was looking to God, but I don't believe that he was my everything. I truly believed how powerful he was. I really didn't have a accurate vision of what God was and is and will be in the future. And the more I found out about the gospel, the more I found out through books like Saturate, through books like Gospel Fluency, I found out more and more about him and about Jesus Christ. And that made a big difference. And
so while you were attempting to live out your own philosophy of life,
yeah,
it was bringing you frustration. You were hearing a different message. And as you were hearing that different message, you started reconsidering your beliefs, belief in yourself, belief that you could make yourself happy, belief that somebody else could make you happy. And you started becoming more and more persuaded that those things can't actually make you happy. You're not really finding the joy. They can for a time, because they do for a time, right?
Sure.
And that we'd be living in delusion if we thought that like temporal things don't make us happy for a time. Almost anything can make you happy for a time.
Yeah.
But you started becoming more and more persuaded through the resurrection. Jesus is eternal. He rose from the dead. Even if you die, you're still going to have life. You started reading and finding out that God is pleased with you, not based on whether you do the right thing, but because he did the right thing. And so you started shifting your hope from you and what you were doing to Jesus and what he did and what he was doing.
Sure. I would agree with that with one proviso. I really think that all of us have times when we perceive ourselves as accomplishing. You just got that promotion. You just applied for that new job. You just got approved for that loan that you're going to be able to buy the house with, or whatever it is that you have. We call them life events. You have a life event. And when those times come, we give all the glory to ourselves. We say, oh, I deserve this. I've earned this. This should be mine because I've worked for years and I've sacrificed this. I didn't get this. A lot of my friends did this, and you gave all that up and you said, oh gosh, this is my prize. This new home, or, this wonderful trip we're taking, or whatever it is that you think you deserve. We live in a deserved society. We live in an entitled society that believes if you work hard and sacrifice and do all the right things, and make all the right moves and pay our dues, so a due-paying society, that we deserve. And really, we don't deserve anything.
Right.
We don't deserve any of that.
Yeah, but to move again, like to persuade somebody of that, they really have to see the futility of it before they can become convinced of something different. Because we're self-confident, we're filled with pride, we're trying to please ourselves from birth, and we go through pain after pain, suffering after suffering, difficulty after difficulty, disappointment after disappointment. And as we're going through all those disappointments, we start hearing about, like, there's a different thing to put our hope in. Mm-hmm. And as we start hearing about that, we start considering it in greater and greater ways. For some people, it's a process. For everyone, it's a process. That process happens in different ways for different people. But
for me, later in life, I'm in my mid-50s now. You mentioned before about the finding myself in an unemployment situation, and I've actually put a great deal of thought and prayer into that, and I feel led at this point in time in my life to not pursue directly a position on the basis of money, on the basis of salary, on the basis of benefits or perks. I feel personally led to go out and see if there's something for me that God would have for me that would allow me to serve others, regardless of how big the salary range or how little it is.
So you're going to trust in Him for your provision rather than yourself, like you'd been doing for years. All that weight was on your shoulders, and you kept making more and feeling better about yourself, but really it kind of turned and bit you.
A lot of gray hair.
Yeah, that's not the only reason we get gray hair, but let's why don't we dive into that maybe next time we get together, because it'd be interesting to explore what happened and how you got there and how you got to that place as far as work goes. To be willing to consider a different motivation, a different purpose than you have in the past. I think this has been great. I think that we kind of got to the heart of some stuff. We'll get to more of the heart of those types of things as time goes on. But I think that we'll wrap it up here, and we'll come back, find out what He's been doing, how we're in process.
Well, thanks for having me back. I really appreciate it. All glory to Him.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, man.
Feeling provoked, angered, encouraged, inspired by what you heard? Don't keep it to yourself. Comment below. Put your supportive beliefs into action by clicking all the clicky stuff. Lastly, gather with those around you and remind one another what Jesus has done, is doing, and will do.